We've been here we go. We do all of our checks, run everything through before we start. That way, 7:30 comes, we start right up, and there's no issues. I was here the last few days. I was here earlier today, trying to put something together, work with our audio and our video. Everything was working earlier today, so I don't know. Do you have it back there? Are we? Colty Hazel, do you have it? Are we live? Or we got it? Wow. Okay. All right, I just want to welcome everybody to our Torah study on tonight. We're certainly glad you joined us, and I don't think our shofar, blowing of the shofar was, I don't think too many people have seen it, but I think we're live here with Elder Gerard and his device. So we're glad that you're here. And on tonight, I just want to go over a few things in your hearing, and just to kind of put people's heart at ease. If you're right, and if you're not, you shouldn't be at ease. So either you're going to be on one side or the other. With the Most High Yah and His only begotten Son that He's given unto us, that we might be redeemed. It is upon each and every one of us. He's given us, when He made us in His image and His likeness, He gave us a will. We had the will. We had the will to choose good and evil. And since that time from the garden, men and women have been making their choices. We're here today, and the same sins that they were committing back in the time of Adam and Eve, and as the human family was growing into different tribes, different nations, different people, but sin is still sin. Sin is the transgression against His Torah. Sin is the transgression against His law. Sin is being disobedient unto Him. If He tells you to go right and you go left, you sin. You've gone against His Torah, His teaching. I'm thinking of Kepha, the apostle Kepha, who the world calls Peter. I'm thinking of him when he had his vision, and in his vision, Yahusha had lowered a sheet that had clean and unclean animals on him and told Kepha, "Rise, Kepha, slay and eat." And Kepha said, "Not so." He told Adonai, Yahusha, "No, I'm not going to eat anything that's unclean, because I've never had anything unclean in my body." And that, we know that vision was, he showed it to him 3 times. But in that vision, Kepha made some very profound, he made a profound statement, but it's worthy of revelation on several points. Because when Torah is given, as far as what we are supposed to do and what we're supposed to refrain from, even though it predates our Messiah, Torah predates our Messiah, you have to understand that Torah was made flesh. So even when he was given the vision unto Kepha, Kepha was somebody who had not transgressed like that, because that's what Torah says. Torah is not going to say anything different than the Mashiach, Christ. He's not going to say anything different. In fact, the Mashiach, Christ, explains Torah in a different degree. And what do you mean by that? Because in Torah it says that thou shalt not commit adultery, Yahusha did not change that, but he gave you a deeper and a clearer understanding. He took it to another degree, because for a married man to look upon a woman to lust after her, he's committed adultery already in his heart. So he didn't change, thou shalt not commit adultery. He just gave you a clear and a more perfect understanding of what the Most High Yah is expecting. What is he expecting of us? He's not expecting us to disobey his teachings. It doesn't matter, what organization you belong to, what church you're affiliated with, whether you are in assembly or fellowship or you're not. You got some people who don't go to a fellowship at all. They don't want to be a part of any assembly. Is that going to change Torah? By no means. It's not going to change Torah. I'm going to hide my head in the sand, and I'm not going to take any accountability for myself. I want to be able to stand in that day when I meet my Maker. I want to be able to say, I didn't know. Ignorance is bliss, a lot of people think. But it's not going to be like that, because even though you did not have a moray, even though you did not have a zakin, even though you did not have a raha, a shepherd, a teacher, an elder, a preacher, whatever, even though you didn't have one, that's not going to release you from judgment that is coming. Because a lot of people think that, I don't go, because you hear it, I don't go to no church. You ain't going to escape judgment. Just because you don't go, I ain't affiliated with nobody. That's your religion. That's all. That's not going to release you from the accountability that you have to give for your life, because we all have a book that's going to be open, and we have to give an account for our life, whether you're affiliated with a fellowship, whether you go to a assembly, whether you go to a Christian church, whether you go to a atheist church, because there are atheist churches out there. It doesn't matter. Or if you don't go at all. You guys, I don't want to have anything to do with none of y'all. That's not going to relieve you from judgment that is coming. There's not going to be any excuses. So when he gives us Torah, when he gives us instructions, he gives us teachings, he expects us to walk in that. He expects us to be obedient, especially those that he anoints with his Ruach. If you say you have the Ruach HaKodesh, or the Holy Ghost, if you testify and if you speak it from your own lips, I have the Holy Ghost, I have the Ruach, I am saved. If you make those proclamation, if you proclaim that, he's expecting you to be obedient to his word, to his Torah. He doesn't take anything, he's not going to take anything less. And so there's not going to be any escape for us. There's not going to be any excuses. We who have the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Ghost, oh yeah, you definitely there's no way you're going to wiggle out of it. Remember what Kepha said when he said in his writings, he says, when you see these days approaching, when you know that this earth is going to melt with fervent heat, the heavens are going to be scrolled away, everything. When you know there's going to be a meltdown, you know that there's going to be end. He says, when you know these things, what manner of person ought you to be in all holy conversation and lifestyle? I think that's what he says. And we could look, I think he said in all holy conversation, which is your lifestyle. He goes on to say, if the righteous scarcely be saved. That means not a lot of righteous folk made it in. When he says if the righteous scarcely be saved, what does he say after that? Where shall the ungodly and sinner appear? Where is the ungodly and sinner going to appear if the righteous scarcely make it? Because you got a lot of people think they're going to get away. They just think they're going to get away. A lot of people don't believe Torah. They don't believe the book. They don't believe the spoken word. And so they think they're going to get away. And that's why when I go back and I hear some of the apostles and look at the lives that they lived, it is so contrary to modern day Christianity. It's so contrary. And many of those who are in, the Roman religion and those fellowship and stuff, they don't believe that you have to keep Torah to be saved. You don't have to teach Torah. You don't have to keep Torah to be saved. I'm going to be saved by my faith only, and my faith in him, not by any works that has to be done. He's going to give me the gift of life. And with that understanding, they are skewed from what the Most High Yah is expecting of them. How many of y'all know, not only did Shaul teach the customs unto the Romans, but how many of y'all know that Kepha was teaching them customs and wanted them to be like the Yahudim? Anybody know that? You guys know that? Where do we find that at? Where Kepha wanted them to be like the Yahudim? Anybody? Because you have a lot of people today saying, I don't want to live like no Jews. I don't want to live like Israel. I ain't Israel. You have some people say, I'm not an Israelite. I don't want to follow no Israelite. I'm a Christian. That's what they say. They're a Christian, not knowing that the one that they're following is an Israelite. You have to believe in an Israelite in order to be saved. And you have to live like that Israelite. That Israelite that you talk about, you have to live like that Israelite. Yahushua Mashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ. You have to live like him, who was an Israelite. So Shaul and Kepha would teach those who were Gentiles how to live like an Israelite. And I know, modern day Christianity, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They'll even tell you, I ain't no Israel, I ain't living like them. I don't want to be like them. Not knowing that Yahushua Mashiach is an Israelite. And Kepha, let's look at Shaul first in the book of Acts, chapter 16, how he was teaching them customs. In Acts chapter 16, and let's look at verse number 20. Acts 16 and 20. And brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men, being Yahudim, do exceedingly trouble our city. Now, who's speaking here? These are the Romans that have taken Shaul, who they call Saul, and Barnabas. I think it's Shaul and Barnabas. They've taken them, and they have taken them to the magistrates, and they're testifying against them, saying, these men trouble our city, and they are doing exceedingly troubling things. What were they doing? What were the troubling things, or how did they trouble the city? He says right here, they teach customs. So Shaul and Barnabas was teaching customs, or the practices, or being like a Yahudim. I'm going to teach you how to be like us, which are not lawful for us to receive, So what he's saying is, as Romans, we shouldn't even be listening to y'all. To receive, we don't listen. And then he goes on to say, neither to observe. That observe means it ain't even lawful for us to keep your Shabbat. You trying to teach us keep the Shabbat. That ain't lawful for us. You're trying to teach us what's clean and unclean. That ain't lawful for us. You're trying to tell us stop offering up to our goddess Diana. No, we ain't doing that. We're not having none of that. Neither to observe, because why? They're Romans. They're Romans. So they're of another nation. They're of another nationality. And Shaul and Barnabas were Israelites. And they were teaching them customs that they wanted the Romans to observe. So that's Shaul. Do you know where it's written of Kepha, where he was doing the same thing? Yes.
The only thing I can think of is the time that Paul was rebuking Peter because he was with the Jews, I guess, my understanding was he was customs or something, and then when the Yahudi showed up, then he moved off.
Exactly. That's exactly it. In Galatians chapter 2, and we'll start at verse number 11. Galatians chapter 2 and verse number 11. Now we have Shaul teaching Romans customs and practices. We're going to see Kepha teaching these Gentiles to be like the Yahudim. I want y'all to be like us. That's what he's doing. But when Kepha was come to Antioch, and what's Antioch? In Antioch, it was first, what happened in Antioch in Acts 11:26? The Ruach fell on them. And what else is Antioch known for?
The first place they were called Christians.
Thank you. In Acts 11:26, we don't have to go there, but Acts 11:26, they were first called Christians in Antioch. And if you read Acts 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, you'll notice that throughout all of those chapters, they all kept the Shabbat. They all kept the Shabbat. And they was first called Christians in Antioch. So, but when Kepha was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face because he was to be blamed. Now let's see what happens, because sometimes people get this confused. Let's see what happens. For before that, certain came from Jacob, who they call James, and you know who Jacob is here. This is Adonai Yahusha's brother. This is Jacob. Adonai Yahusha's brother. He was the overseer of Jerusalem. He was over the council or the assembly that was called out unto this salvation. He was over them in Jerusalem. So if you want to know what Jacob or James stood for, well, you got to go read his book. He wrote a letter. And in that letter, you find out that he believed in Torah. Because there's a little confusion out there on what is the apostles' doctrine. There's a little confusion. So you have to understand what the apostles' doctrine is, because some of them will say the apostles' doctrine simply was Acts 2:38, and that's not true. The apostles' doctrine extended beyond Acts 2:38. Do you know it was a part of the apostles' doctrine that everybody in the assembly had all things common? That was a part of their doctrine. So everybody who says that they're following the apostles' doctrine, but you go to assembly where you have rich and you have poor, and you've got two classes of people, and you got the congregation that's poor and can't make their home or their mortgage payment, but the preacher's driving a Lexus, you're not keeping the apostles' doctrine. You're not keeping the apostles' doctrine. And I know so many assemblies where the pastor is living large and the people in the assembly are on ADC, you're not keeping the apostles' doctrine. That's not the apostles' doctrine. So we need to get a clear understanding of what the apostles' doctrine is instead of just simply saying, repent, be baptized in Yahushua's name, being filled with the Holy Ghost, the Ruach HaKodesh. It's more than that. So let's see what happens here. For before that certain came from Jacob, so Kepha, let's get a picture now. Kepha was in Antioch. Jacob was in Jerusalem, but where did Jacob find, where did he show up at? In Antioch. But he showed up in Antioch after Kepha. So Kepha was there with the Gentiles. Just keep that in mind. He did, before Jacob came, Kepha did eat with the Gentiles. But when they were come, now here comes Jacob and the other Yahudim from Jerusalem to Antioch. When they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision, or the Yahudim. And he goes on to tell you why he feared those that came from the Yahudim, or came from Jerusalem, who were the Yahudim. And of the other Yahudim dissembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation. What's going on here? That's what people are trying to figure out. What's going on? We were all sitting down to eat. Now, just to throw a little something in here, when Kepha had that vision and then he went to Cornelius' house, one of the first things he said was, you know it's not lawful that a what? A Yehudi should be what? Eating with the Gentiles. That's what, but there's no Torah for that. There's no Torah for a Yahudim not to eat with a Gentile. You won't find that in Torah. You will find it in the Mishnah. You will find it in the Talmud. In the Talmud, they taught that, but not in Moses' teachings from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. You won't find that. But in the Mishnah and when they did their halakha, the Mishnah from the Talmud, they would teach that. You don't eat with no Gentiles. They're beneath you. You don't eat with them. So that's why Kepha did it. Kepha was following the Talmud more so than following Torah. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Kepha before all, if thou being a Yehudi livest after the manner of the Gentiles, and not as do the Yahudim. Do y'all get that so far? Because we're going to look at this in some different versions and see if you can get a little clarity. So what he's saying is, if you're a Yehudi or Jew, and you're living after the manner of the Gentiles by eating with them, and not as the Yahudim who weren't eating with them, because in the Mishnah and the Talmud, they said you ain't supposed to do that. Why compellest thou the Gentiles to what? Live as the Yahudim. So Kepha was compelling them, you got to live like us. You got to live like us. You got to take on our customs, our practices. That's what you have to do. He's telling them that, but then when Jacob and the other Yahudim from Jerusalem, when they showed up, he pulled back. He pulled back because he didn't want to be seen with them, because according to the Talmud, they weren't even supposed to be sitting down eating. So Shaul saying, wait a minute, brother, what you doing? With publicans and sinners. Yeah. So we don't teach the Mishnah or the Talmud But in that, you'll find some very strange practices that they did that, I tell you, would just make your stomach churtle. And it's like, how can a people be like that? When you read, if you read some Mishnah, you would be thinking, man, how could the people even be like that? And then you'd be thinking, where did they get that from? How could their sages interpret Moses' law like that? Because that's what they do. They take Moses' law and then they halakha, or they teach it, and it comes up with all these little fence law, all this other stuff that has nothing to do with Torah. And that's why Yahusha stood him up and says, you teach traditions of men, and when you do that, you make my Abba's word of none effect. Of none effect. So in the Talmud, there was a problem here. So what Shaul was telling him, you're being like a Gentile, not like those in the Talmud or the Babylon Talmud and the Mishnah, not like them, but then you separate yourself because of the fear of these guys. Why are you trying to tell those Gentiles to live like Jews then? So let's look at this in another version here, verse number 14. Let's look at it in another version. Let's see what's up there. Let's look at the BSB, the Berean. Let's look at the Berean first. What does the Berean say? When I saw that they were not walking in line with the truth of the gospel, I said to Kepha in front of them all, if you who are a Yehudi live like a Gentile and not like a Yehudi because of the teachings that they had, how can you compel the Gentiles to live like Yahudim? So the point I'm trying to make is when people tell you that we don't have to live like the Yahudim, we don't have to live like Israel, not according to Shaul and Kepha, because in their ministry they taught Romans and they taught the Galatians to live like the Yahudim. So I have to go to the Yahudim Torah. If I'm a Gentile, I have to go to the Yahudim Torah, and that's how I live my life. Now, if I do that without Yahushua Mashiach, can I be saved? No, I got to have, and that's why Shaul was saying, now according to the gospel now, we need Yahushua Mashiach. We need to be born again. We need to be covered in his blood. We need the Son and have faith in the Son unto redemption, but I don't stop teaching Torah. I don't stop living like the Yahudim. In fact, I teach Gentiles how to live like the Yahudim. So why would he want all of these other Gentiles to live like the Yahudim? Why would he want them to do that? In Matthew 5:14, let's go back to the King James. Go back to the King James version and Matthew 5:14. Why do we want to live like the Yahudim? Matthew 5:14. Test. Can y'all hear me all right? What is the Yahudim? Ye, and he's talking to Yasharal, he's saying, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. So he tells the Yahudim, let your light so shine before men, that they may see your what? So people who think that you don't have to do no works, then you're going against Yahushua Mashiach. You're going against his very word. That they may see your good works. So as the Yahudim, or as Israel is, the Yahudim, you have to let your light shine. You have to show forth your good works and glorify Yahushua Mashiach, which is in the Shamayim. Is that what it says? Glorify Yahushua Mashiach, which is in the Yahudi? We glorify Abba. We glorify our Abba. If we live by the Torah in front of the world and we let our light shine, they're going to see our good works because you got to put in the work. You got to do your work. They're going to see your good works, and Abba is glorified. Abba is glorified. Abba Yah is glorified. And let me tell you, everybody back in that day knew the Father's name. They knew Abba's name. Abba Yahuwah. It's when this book fell into the hands of other nations, they did not want Yasharal to know who their father is. And if I can take his name from you, and if I can strip you of your heritage, if you don't know you belong to Abba, how are you going to call on Abba? You ain't going to call on Abba Yah if you don't know his name. So, and glorify your Abba, which is in heaven. So Shaul and Kepha taught Gentiles the customs and how to live like a Yehudi. Did we just see that? Didn't we just see that? Kepha, why are you compelling them to live like Yehudis when you was trying to eat with the Gentiles until the other Yahudim came and then you pulled back? But you want them to live like you. So he said that you didn't do it. That's not right, Kepha. You cannot be ashamed to be with the Gentiles, because you got some folks today, they don't want to be with Gentiles. Well, then how can you compel them to be like us if you don't want to be with them? If you don't want to be around them? Man, ain't got nothing to do with them Gentiles. Ain't got nothing to do with them. Well, then how are you going to compel them to live like you and to be like a Yehudi? So when it says here in verse 14, when it says that we are the light of the world, we are to let our light shine. And we have to let it shine before men. We have to let that light shine before men, and then they'll see our good works and they're going to glorify Abba in heaven. But we are that light. What separates Yasharal from all the other nations is the fact that the Most High Yah made a covenant with Yasharal and then told Yasharal how to live, gave them instruction on how to live. Give me Proverbs 9 and 9. Proverbs 9 and 9. See what that says. It says, give instruction to a wise man, and he will be what? He's going to be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. So he gave Yasharal instructions. He taught Yasharal how to live. He gave the covenant, the law, statutes, and commandments unto Moses, Musha, they call him Moses, and he taught Israel how to live. Those same instructions that Musha gave Yasharal are the same instructions we're to teach today. Same instruction. And if you teach those instructions, it's going to make you wiser. I get understanding from Torah. I get more understanding from it. I'm wise beyond other men because I understand Torah. I know how to live my life. My father is not capitalism and my mother's not religion. I'm wiser than that. I'm much wiser than that. And Abba Yah showers on me things that we need. He increases us to where I don't have to lust after anything that nobody else has, because he increases me. He gives unto me. He pours out unto me. I've got favor with him. So I'm not jealous of anybody. A wise man won't be jealous of nobody. A wise man ain't going to desire to have something that don't belong to him. I know what somebody going to say. What about the wisest man on earth? Solomon, King Solomon, they call Solomon, he was the wisest man on earth. But he was also the richest man on earth. So whatever his eyes seen or his heart desired, he got. He didn't have to steal it. He didn't have to steal it. He was just able to acquire it without stealing from anybody because of his wealth that he had. But who gave him his wealth? Abba Yah. Abba Yah gave him his wealth because he came to Abba Yah, and what did he ask for? He asked for wisdom. He says, give me wisdom that I might be able to judge your people. That's what he asked for. He didn't ask for no riches, nothing. He asked for wisdom to where he could judge his people. And the Most High Yah says, since you inquired of wisdom, you wanted to be wise, and you didn't ask for more chariots and horses and women and all. You didn't ask for that, silver and gold, or, increase your kingdom. Since you didn't ask for that, I'm going to give it to you because he asked for wisdom. So you give instruction to a wise man, he's going to be yet wiser. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse number, let's look at verse number 7. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 7. For what nation is there so great who hath Elohim so nigh unto them as Yahuwah our Elohim is in all things that we what? Call upon him, right? And what nation is there so great that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? Let's go up to verse number 6. Let's go up to verse number 6. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your what? That's your wisdom. And your understanding. So if I know Torah and I've got a wise person, I can teach Torah, and that wise person is going to be wiser. Because when you teach this, he says, this is your wisdom and your understanding. Where? In the sight of the nations. So didn't Yahusha say, let your what? Let your light shine. Let that light shine. So that other people can see your good works and they glorify Abba in heaven. They'll say, man, this is a wise and understanding people. Which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is what? A wise and understanding people. That's what you get from Torah. I get wisdom. I get an understanding from teaching Torah, from reading Torah. We should read Torah and try to get understanding of Torah because it's going to make me wise and understanding. For what nation is there so great who hath Elohim so nigh unto them as Yahuwah our Elohim is in all things that are called upon him? All things we call upon him. And what nation is so great that hath statutes and judgments and so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? You see that? So what would cause us to be in the condition that we're in to where we would have to be redeemed? Transgression. We did not keep Torah. We transgressed Torah. We broke covenant. We broke the covenant with him. And that's why, see, really, we should be able to call on Abba Yah and he should answer. Isaiah 59 and verse 1. Isaiah 59 and 1. Behold, Yahuwah's hand is not shortened that it cannot save. You see that? Neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear. He told us that if we're obedient unto him, when we call on him, he's going to answer. Other nations are going to say, man, they got an Elohim that's so close and near to them. All they have to do is call on him. And King Solomon says, if my people, which are called by my name, if they would what? Humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. All of that. He says, if you do all of that, I'm going to hear from heaven. Because he says here, my hand is not shortened that it can't save you in the time when you need to be saved. I know of a time, I was going down 12th Street in Davenport, and it was in the wintertime. The road was icy. I was going down 12th Street, and you know where that viaduct, that bridge and that railroad viaduct, and it's right in the middle of the road. And I was going down 12th Street on the incline, going towards East Village in Davenport, and struggling to keep control of my car, and then lost control of the car. I couldn't steer left or right, couldn't brake or nothing. Heading straight for the viaduct in the middle of the road. And the only thing I could say was, Jesus! That's all I could say. Only thing I could say was, Jesus! And I was the only one, and I screamed it, I hollered it, Jesus! And here comes a car, just went right past the viaduct. He says, my ear ain't heavy, I can't hear you. My hand ain't far that I can't save you. Because we should have that testimony. We got an Elohim. He hears our cry. He delivers us. Oh, man. They should look at us and say, y'all special people. I know I'm special. I'm supposed to be special. I am special. Sometimes we look at ourselves, and our sons and daughters are growing up, and they have poor self-esteem, and they don't feel like they're nobody, and they're so defeated, and they're so looked down upon. You don't realize how special you are. You have an Elohim that says, my hand is not short that I can't save you. You never know what situation you might be in. You need to be saved. I need some help right now. Because this save right here, it's talking about being delivered. I need to be delivered right now. I got a situation right now. I need to be delivered from this. I don't have time for a long, drawn-out 1-hour prayer meeting. I don't even have time to call folks and say, will you pray with me? I ain't got time for that. It's of right now. I need somebody right now. And that's what he says. Hey, my head ain't short. You're my people. We should have that testimony of other nations. Man, we ain't never seen an Elohim so close to people like their Elohim is. Man, they call on him, he shows up. We just don't know who we are. And we allow outside forces and influences to come in and defeat us mentally. Mentally defeat us. We can't even call on them. Now, if you strung out on drugs, you should call on them. I'm going to tell y'all now. If you strung out in the brown bottle, in the brown bag, can't get out of that bottle, you better call on him. You living in a rubber world. I don't know what they got now, but back in the day, there was mescaline and acid and stuff. It was a rubber world. Sometimes all you can do, oh, man. He says in 1 Corinthians, the 6th chapter, he says, flee fornication. that means you better start running, because walking's too slow. I ain't going to walk my way out of this. I'm running. Running means you're making haste. I'm doing it quick. Because he says, I'll leave a way of escape for all of y'all when temptation comes. Ain't no temptation greater that you can't get out of it unless you decide, I ain't going to run. Unless you decide, it's just too much temptation. I'm going to fall. It's just too much. That's your decision. Because he'll have a way of escape for you. No, that's what Torah says. That's what Shaul's letter says now. I'm going to make a way of escape for you. You're tempted more than you're able to bear. Because he's taken away everybody's excuse. Nobody's going to have an excuse in that day. Temptation was too great. No. I couldn't help myself. Oh, yes, you could. You can help yourself. Notice what he says here. My hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear. But what happened? Your iniquities have separated between you and your Elohim. And we read in Deuteronomy, man, this is a wise and understanding people. Man, this is a nation that's got an Elohim that's near to them. He answers them. Uh-oh, he's not answering. He's not answering. And then you have people in that day, they're going to rise up and say, I called on you, but you didn't answer. Your iniquities. And it wasn't just one time, but you did it, and you did it again, and you begin to work it. There was a saying out there, I got this from I don't know, I was a young fella growing up, and I can't even remember who said it. But he said, one time is too many, and 1,000 times is not enough. Because we was virgins, and it was about keeping your virginity. Because he says, if you do it one time, that's too many. One time is too many. 1,000 times, it's not enough. Not enough. Because once you cross over, if you're a virgin and you cross over and experience that, 1,000 times won't be enough. You'll never get satisfied. It's almost like an insatiable spirit. Then you get to the place where I can't help myself. I just can't help it. I just do it. I have no control. You have to be careful because he says, we have to be careful because I'm trying to say it verbatim. I might not say it verbatim. But you can have your conscience, what? Seared with a hot iron, which means you've gone past the feeling of condemnation. Now you work in that iniquity and you don't feel no condemnation. Now that's scary. Because then he could turn you over to what? Uh-oh. Turn you over to a reprobate, that means he's done. If you can work iniquity to where you have no conscience, then it's been seared. Oh, okay. Your iniquities have separated between you and your Elohim, and your sins have hid his face from you that he will not hear. It's because of your sins that creates that big gulf between you and your Elohim. Because I'm telling you, he don't want to be far from any one of us. He even says that in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and Shaul picks it up in Romans chapter 10, saying the same thing, but in Deuteronomy 30, he says, you don't have to go up into the heavens to get it, and you don't have to go deep down in the depths of the earth to get it. But he says it's nigh unto you where? In your mouth, right, and in your heart. That's how close it should be. It shouldn't be far. There should be no great gulf between us and the Most High Yah. He should be so near to us that where we just speak it. We can just speak it. And you don't know the power that you have. Didn't he say that? Y'all want to read that? Should we read it? Y'all want to read it? Deuteronomy chapter 30. And we'll have to read down. I don't know exactly what verse it is. Let's start at verse number 7. Let's see. Deuteronomy 30 and 7. Let's go down. Let's see what verse 10 says. Okay. For this commandment which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven that thou shouldest say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea that thou shouldest say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us that we may hear it and do it? But where is it? But the word is very nigh unto thee. Where is it? And in thy, that thou mayest. So Shaul understood this now. Shaul understood this. And in Romans chapter 10, and let's look at let's start at verse number 5, I think, somewhere around there. Romans 10, and I think let's start at verse 5. Let's see. For Musha describeth the righteousness which is of the law, that the man which doeth those things shall live by them. But the righteousness which is of faith speaketh on this wise. Say not in thine heart, who shall ascend into the heaven? That is to bring Mashiach down. Or who shall descend into the deep? That is to bring up Mashiach again from the dead. But what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. Shaul got that from Deuteronomy chapter 30 from Moses' teaching. And that's what he says here. Notice now what he interchanges. Because Moses was talking about what that was near unto them. The word or the law. The word was near unto them, the law. Shaul interchanges law with who? The Mashiach, Yahushua Mashiach. He takes law from Moses' teaching and he used that as the Mashiach. So Torah is the Mashiach is Torah. Commandments is the Mashiach is the commandments. And that's how Shaul taught it. That's how he taught it. Because Moses was speaking of Torah, the commandments which I give you this day, they should be nigh unto you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you would do them. Shaul says, should be nigh unto thee in thy heart. He's dealing with the faith that they have in Mashiach. Because Mashiach is Torah and Torah is Mashiach. You can't separate them. I don't care what these modern day preachers say. You cannot separate. Shaul didn't. He interchanged law with Christ. Some people say, well, he replaced law with Christ. But Musha was talking about law. Shaul's talking about Christ. So you got to have the faith in Christ. He is law or Torah, and Torah is Christ, the Mashiach. and you got to have faith in him. Got to have faith in him. You can't separate Christ from the law, and that's how Shaul understood it. I can't separate the two. So he inserts Christ here for law. Y'all see that? It should be nigh thee in thy mouth. That is the word of faith which we preach. And the faith that we should have is what? In Mashiach. The faith that we have in the Mashiach. Or the faith we have in law. The faith that we have in law. Because the law teaches faith. The law teaches faith. They're interchangeable. Matthew, yes.
Why do you have a problem when he said the law, the flesh was made word, which is law, right?
Yeah, the word became flesh. Yeah.
That's why I see what Paul, how he's able to put that in there, because he's saying the same thing, he just used the Mashiach instead of using law.
Right. Because Musha used law, Shaul uses Christ. Because the law became flesh. The word was made flesh, dwelt among us. You'll never separate the Mashiach, Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ. You'll never separate him from law. That'll never happen. That'll never happen. He would have to deny himself. I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to deny my teaching. She just came in to get some water. I would have to deny my, Mashiach would say, I have to deny myself. If I'm going to deny law, I got to deny myself. And he's not going to do that. It's what the way Shaul understood it, they're one and the same. They're one and the same. Matthew 23:23. Matthew 23:23. I'm going to finish up here because I didn't want to get too long here. I'm going to finish up. Matthew 23:23, because the law teaches faith. Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. Y'all should read this chapter sometime. He cuts up them scribes and Pharisees. Oh, man, he cuts them up, man. He chops their head off. Oh, man. But you know what? In Matthew 5, he says, except your righteousness exceed that of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no wise what? Enter in. So my righteousness, so when I read Matthew 23, I have to understand he's not doing away with law and Torah. I can't be like these Pharisees because they'll teach law and Torah, but they didn't live it. They didn't live it. Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint, anise, and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of what? The weightier matters of law. When I understand law and I study law, the weightier matters is what? Judgment, mercy, and faith. And that's why Shaul was saying, we got to know this by faith. The law brings about faith. My faith in Mashiach, my faith in the law. That's where my faith is. These ought ye to have done and not to leave the other undone. Do you know he says that these scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites in this chapter here, he says they're already condemned to hell. Because he says you can pass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when you convert them, you make them twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. That's pretty strong, ain't it? Yeah. He's saying them scribes and Pharisees, their fate is already sealed. Their fate is already sealed. So, it's our iniquities and stuff that separates us from him. That's what separates us. And let's look at, real quick, Matthew 7 and verse 21, real quick. I'm just going to read a couple scriptures here and we'll be done. Not everyone that saith unto me, Adonai, Adonai, is going to enter into the kingdom of the Shamayim. But he that doeth the will of my Abba, which is in the Shamaim, do you think it's the Abba's will that you disobey his law, his Torah, and break it every chance you get? You think that's his will? Oh, no. His will is that we keep Torah, because that's what got Israel in the condition that they're in now, is because they broke Torah, they broke the covenant, and so all the curses had to come upon them. So now he sends his son to redeem Israel. He sends his son to redeem them, and in the redemption, the life that they live, they're not supposed to keep breaking Torah. No, we're to live by Torah through our faith in Yahushua Mashiach. The faith that I have in Yahushua Mashiach, I live by Torah. Many will say to me in that day, Adonai, Adonai, have we not prophesied in thy name? And you heard me say this before. The only people that prophesy in the name of the Messiah are what we call today Christians. Buddhists, those who practice Buddhists, they don't call on him. Does Islam call on him? They don't call on him. No. The only ones who call on him are so-called Christians. Well, let's see what happens to them. And haven't we prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils? Now that ought to be a pretty good clue who uses his name to cast out devils. That ought to be a pretty... Do y'all know them Khazar Jews that's over there now? The Hasidic Jews, the Khazar Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews. They do not call on his name. In fact, they believe the man we call Yahushua, Mashiach, they believe he's burning in hell at this hour in human excrement. That's what they believe. It's in their Mishnah. It's in their Mishnah. Mishnah is the teaching of the sages. They taught Mishnah, or they taught the oral law. So you got the Talmud, the oral law, you got the Mishnah, which is the teaching of the oral law. The Mishnah goes into more ordinances, statutes, and things in the Mishnah. And the Mishnah comes from the sages, who they call these great men that understands law. They know the law. They're able to interpret and teach law. They'll take that first commandment, like thou shalt not have any else before me, and then they'll start bringing in a whole, you have to do this, you have to do this, so that you don't bring no other else before them, that you don't bring no other gods before them. When the commandment was thou shalt not have any more gods before me, they'll start teaching all, even like how we would do in holiness churches years ago, not so much today, but years ago, when they would teach in holiness churches, you can't wear red. Women can't put anything in their hair. Do you know that there was some teaching that women could not wear wigs? You could not wear wigs. Women had to wear stockings. Men could only wear brown and black shoes. If you come to church, you can only come in a white shirt. Everybody had to wear a tie. If you came in here without a tie, you sinned. It was just a part of the teaching, or that's what they added to it, which we don't call it Mishnah, but that's kind of like Mishnah is, because Mishnah would, if you follow the Mishnah and the teachings of the Talmud, that would make you closer, and you would be keeping the law. That's how you keep the law. So when it comes to that first commandment, thou shalt not have any other gods before me, okay, what is a god? Well, some people can say, you could worship a car. Your car actually could be your god. So you might have to put that down and ride a bicycle, because your car becomes your god. You can't have any other god before him. It was illegal. It says it in Exodus 23:13. It was illegal to even mention other gods. So that's one way you don't bring any other gods before him. You don't even mention them. He says it shouldn't even come out your mouth. That's more of like an ordinance or a statute to keep that first commandment. And in thy name done many wonderful works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me. Why? Because they worked iniquity. Because he says that's what separated us. Your iniquity, your wickedness, your lawlessness has separated me from you, like it says in Isaiah. This here, working iniquity, that doesn't mean you did it once. Because the law teaches judgment, mercy. The law teaches mercy. So this is not, how often do you go to work? How often do you go to work? Every day. When I'm working something, I'm on the job. It's repetitive. I keep doing it. So he's saying here, you didn't just do iniquity one time, you worked it. Which means you did it over and over and over and over again. And what does he say? Depart from me. I don't want to have nothing to do with you. Because if you would have did it once and confessed, the law teaches mercy. And we see that with Yahusha when that woman was caught in adultery. And by the law, that's why they even said, the law of Moses told her she's supposed to be stoned. What sayest thou? He says, y'all that don't have sin, y'all cast the first stone. And nobody could do it. Couldn't nobody pick up a stone because they all had sinned. So he says, where's your accusers? They all left. Where are those who condemn you? They all left. I'm not going to condemn you, but go and, because if she would have kept doing it, she would have worked iniquity. And that's why the law teaches mercy. King Daud had mercy. Oh, according to the law, he should have died. It don't matter he was king. He was supposed to die according to the law. But he repented, and the law taught us he showed mercy on David. So Shaul showed mercy. He didn't do away with law because the law actually teaches judgment. We know what the judgment is. We know what mercy is if he don't execute judgment on you. And I live it by faith. I live by faith. So everybody that keeps working iniquity, those are the ones that's going to have to depart from them. No, I'm not going to keep telling you to stop. I'll tell you to stop. I'll tell you to stop. Maybe 3 times I'll tell you to stop. But after that, you won't hear his voice. You won't even hear him. He's okay. They're content on doing what they want to do. They're working it. You show up every day on the job. Every time temptation comes, you do it. Well, you're working it. I know, forgive me. 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. Forgive me. I said this is going to be my last one. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not what? Inherit the kingdom of Elohim. And that's why Kepha said, if the righteous scarcely make it, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? And I want to talk about Adam and Eve eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I want to talk about that one day. Because according to this, and according to what we taught, little Kyler there would be lost. Why would little Kyler be lost? Why would Asaiah be lost? Why would they be lost? Huh? Yeah, we say because of the sin of Adam, right? Passed down to them. So they would be lost. Well, if everybody's lost, besides those who repent and are immersed in Yahushua's name, filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, if those are the only ones that's going to have eternal life or live again, how is he going to repopulate the new earth? Because Kyler wouldn't make it. So I wouldn't make it because we say that they got the sin of Adam on. They're going to die. Just think about that. Just think about that. Just think about that. Remember I've been saying that he's got 12,000 from each tribe, virgin boys that are sealed. He's going to seal them. They're young virgins. Do you think they have the sin of Adam on them? If they're born, but he seals them, and he seals them for a purpose. Now, I don't want to get into that, but I want to teach on the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I want to teach on that. Yeah. Yeah. So we have to, if he's sealing and preserving 12,000 from each tribe that are virgins, these are young males that are virgins. They don't know a woman. What's he going to do with them? Why is he sealing them? And then we have to learn from Torah. We have to learn from Torah. When they went in to annihilate a people, take out the whole people, there was instructions, not all the time, but there were some instructions, and I'd have to pinpoint it, but they went into a land and they slaughtered everybody except the virgins, the girls who never knew a man. They were the only ones that were allowed to live. Everybody else had to die. So remember now, everything that was written aforetime was written for what? Our learning. It's all written for our learning. So we have to glean from that, understand, what is he doing, especially when he's sealing some of his sons. Why would you seal a little virgin boy? Unless, of course, you plan on him planting that seed and that tribe continues on. Because he is going to populate the new earth. It will be populated. Anyway, one day I want to do a little, because I'm still learning on that, but I want to bring out what I know so far, just from my study. Be not deceived. So unrighteous, be not deceived. Who else is not going to get in? Fornicators. Fornicators ain't getting in. I don't care. It could be my family. I'm telling you, there's fornicators in my family now. Well, he's going to have mercy. Well, the law does teach mercy, but you can't work it now. Can't work that thing. He will have mercy, but I heard Yahushua say, don't you tempt the Most High Yah. Don't tempt him now. Oh, there's mercy. There is mercy with him. Don't tempt him. Nor idolaters. I don't even want y'all talking about them other gods. Don't you bow down and worship. We're supposed to come before him, Most High Yah. His only begotten son, Yahusha. That's it. And there's no similitude of him. Quit drawing pictures of him because nobody knows what he looks like. There's no. He even said in Deuteronomy, all you heard was my voice. I purposely did that because you would make a similitude of a male or a female and you will bow down and worship it. And I don't want you to do that. That's what our Abba says. Nor adulterers, ain't gonna get in. Remember I say, sin won't get you in. Sin will not get you in the kingdom. You ain't getting in. I don't care what your name is. Do y'all know he'll kill Israelites quick? Because some people think they're going to get spared. Oh, no. I'm a good sinner. Doesn't matter. It don't matter. He's looking for righteousness. I want people that's going to obey me. You can't keep disobeying me and think that I'm going to give you eternal life. That's why he moved them out of the garden and he sealed the tree of life. Nor effeminate. And they sure want to make our sons effeminate, don't they? They sure want to make them effeminate. And it's against Abba. Nor abusers of themselves with mankind. Male and female. Male on male and female on female. Huh?
I looked it up. That abusers of themselves in the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And it says?
A sodomite.
Yeah.
Abuser of that, and it has in parentheses that defile self with man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because see, males are not to sodomize females. Because you had some there was an apostolic bishop that I know said it was okay for a husband to sodomize his wife, not according to Torah. Not according to Torah. Is that a little bit too much for him?
I just asked me what is sodomite.
Yeah, ask your mom and dad. Nor thieves, thou shalt not steal. Nor covetous, you ain't supposed to covet or you got to get lust out your heart. Nor drunkards, can't be drunk. It don't say you can't drink wine, it says you can't be drunk. A drunkard. A drunkard is more than somebody that drinks wine. A drunkard is somebody who can't stop drinking, and when you drink, you drink to get drunk. That's a drunkard. And if you can't handle it, then don't do it. Ain't nobody telling you to, man, have a glass of wine. Ain't nobody telling you to do that. I don't want to touch no wine because I might not stop at a glass. I might drink the whole bottle. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because Shaul says all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not what? Expedient. It's not profitable for me. So some people don't, hey, ain't nobody telling y'all. Don't tell. Hazley said, no, I didn't. I'm teaching Torah. Nor revilers, reviling all the time, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Elohim. And he says, such were some of you. But what happened to us? We were washed. And like Elder Gerard likes to say, my brain was washed. We was washed, but ye are sanctified, which means you've been set apart for a purpose. But ye are justified. I'm justifying you through Yahushua Mashiach. Just as if you didn't do it. But you can't keep doing it. I'm going to give you a clean slate just as if you didn't do it. Only Yahushua could do that. Only the blood of Yahushua could do that, give you a clean slate. But you can't keep doing it. Nobody that keeps working iniquity, not going to get in. All right, any questions, comments? Any questions, comments? If not, we're going to finish it up. And we thank you for everybody who had joined in to this Torah teaching on today. And we welcome you to come on back on the platforms that we're on, Facebook and YouTube. We'll be back on the Shabbat with our Shabbat fellowship and our Shabbat service. This Sunday we're going to have a meeting, real quick meeting here, because we got Sukkot coming up. And we're going to start planning. We got to set forth some plans because time is of the essence. This is about the middle of July, and the 7th month starts. Y'all know September stands for 7, right? So even though it's on the Pope Gregory calendar, it's 9th month, but Sep stands for 7. But in the 7th month, the first day of the 7th month, I think, is September 15th, I think, or 16th, somewhere around there, and then, which is Feast of Trumpets. And then you have Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. You got the Day of Atonement, which is the 10th day of the 7th month. And then after that, you got Sukkot starting on the 15th day. So we got Sukkot coming up here pretty quick. So we need to make plans for that. So we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting on Sunday to plan for that. So anything else that's coming up? Those are the main things. We got 3 feasts coming up. And he said, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together as a manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. So and when you look at Hebrews, the only time they assembled was Shabbat and feast days. That's the only time they assembled as a congregation, as assembly. Now, you had those who went house to house, and you do have the ministry that goes house to house to minister to those who are in need. But as far as assembly, when they assembled as a body, they did that on the Shabbat and on the feast days. So we got that coming up, and we certainly will be saying more of that as we go forward. And let's keep each other up in prayer. Let's remember the elderly, our senior members, Mother Carruthers, Mother Smith, Deacon Atwater. Let's keep them up in prayer. And remember the Middleton family in the loss of Pastor Greg Middleton. And for, I got a hold of First Lady Robin Middleton and let her know that we're here for her, and if there's anything that we can do to be in support of them and through this time of their sorrow and their grief, losing their feeder. He was their feeder, and so we certainly will be in prayer for them, and if there's anything we can do. When I get more information, of course, we'll be sending flowers and our condolences, a card and everything, but anybody who knows them, you might want to reach out to them and just give them some comforting words. Because everybody is going to go down that road. Everybody's going to go down that road if time permits. All right. So with that, I'm going to say shalom, and we'll be back here on the Shabbat. Shabbat is our next assembly.